I'm standing in front of the former location of the Seattle Ice Arena. Why? Well, I'm going to tell you the tale of the Seattle Metropolitans and the canceled Stanley Cup Finals.
On March 29, 1919, a season is cut short due to a worldwide pandemic. The Stanley Cup is North America's oldest professional sports trophy. First awarded in 1893, it actually predates the National Hockey League. The 1919 Stanley Cup Finals feature the Montreal Canadiens, champions of the NHL, and the Seattle Metropolitans, champions of the Pacific Coast Hockey Association. All games are played at the Seattle Ice Arena. The series is even after 5 games, with each team winning 2 games and 1 game ending in a scoreless tie. Before Game 6, most of Montreal's team falls ill with influenza. This is alarming as the Spanish flu pandemic, which began the previous year, is still raging. 4 days later, one of Montreal's players dies. The Montreal Gazette's headline reads, "Veteran Joe Hall called by death." The series is canceled. The only other season the Stanley Cup is not awarded is 2005 due to an NHL lockout. Stay tuned because coming up, we'll learn more about both the 1919 Stanley Cup Finals and the influenza pandemic. We'll also draw some parallels with COVID-19. Don't forget to check out Today in History in my Teachers Pay Teachers store. There's a link in the description. The influenza pandemic erupted in 1918 and continued for about 2 years. It infected 1/3 of the world's population and killed an estimated 650,000 Americans and 50 million people worldwide. You can learn more about it, including how it likely began, from my March 11th video. I'll put a link in the description. The National Hockey League and the Pacific Coast Hockey Association played with very different sets of rules in 1919. For example, moving the puck with a forward pass was against the rules in the NHL at that time, but was legal on a limited basis in the PCHA. In fact, the PCHA introduced a number of other innovations during its brief existence from 1911 to 1924. These included the blue lines, the goal creases, and also penalty shots. The PCHA also pioneers goalies leaving their feet to make saves, so diving in effect, which was originally against the rules in the NHL, but was adopted by the NHL the previous season. The PCHA was also the first Canadian league to expand into the United States. Because of the rule differences, they actually alternated which rules would be used each game throughout the series. Not surprisingly, each team's 2 wins occurred using the rules to which it was accustomed. Some of Seattle's players also came down with the flu, but the outbreak in Montreal's team was much, much more severe. 4 of the Canadiens' players were hospitalized, and as previously mentioned, Joe Hall, a Canadiens player, died. Montreal's owner and manager, George Kennedy, was also hospitalized, and he never fully recovered and died 2 years later. Following the cancellation of the series, Kennedy had tried to award the cup to Seattle, but the Metropolitans refused to accept it, and today the Stanley Cup has both teams listed for 1919. The parallels to the COVID-19 pandemic are pretty hard to miss here. We all saw how a pandemic can impact sports. As the nation shut down in March 2020, the NCAA tournament was canceled. We saw the NBA complete its season in a bubble. The 2020 MLB season was shortened with its playoffs held in limited locations. The NHL adjusted its divisions, and college football teams reworked their season with shortened schedules. Teams in most sports played games with limited fans or even no fans in attendance. Well, if you like what you've seen here, please be sure to like and subscribe. And you can see that March 11th video about the influenza pandemic right here. And there's another great Mr. Lewis video right here. Thanks for watching.